Being the kind of person that I've been throughout my adult life, I lost everything at one time. I felt unseen when my family didn't respond. I had absolutely no clue where to go because I've never looked at this possibility before. I never thought this would happen. Bouncing around to different resources that don't do this kind of thing, I thought I'm never going to be able to find a plateau to stand on. What do you do? Because I can't go home again and I have no resources at this point. So that's kind of when reality struck and I knew I had to find this kind of thing and it was available somewhere.
Welcome to Unseen Atlanta, an Atlanta Mission podcast, where we shine a light on some of the city's toughest issues. We tell true stories of real people who've experienced homelessness and addiction. We're also going to bring you insights from experts who give context to some of these issues. I'm your host, Rachel Reynolds.
And I'm Jonathan Miller, your co-host. So Rachel, we have Jason today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting him when he walked in, and I think you guys aren't going to be expecting it either, because it definitely gives you a totally different view of what homelessness looks like. I think we have in our mind that homelessness is the person on the side of the road asking for money or someone who's been homeless a long time. But I think Jason, not to give away too much, but I think Jason really totally busts a lot of those
Turns
myths.
that upside down.
He does. And he talks a lot about how there's a difference between chronic homelessness and situational homelessness.
Yeah.
And he just found himself in a situation where
There was nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go. So there's a lot of different things in the story. So I really hope you guys take some things from this story and just think about what are those misconceptions you have around homelessness and what it looks like. So enjoy listening. Hey, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
How are you feeling today?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Sure.
So, want to get a little bit about your story today. So, tell us a little bit about where you're from.
From Mobile, Alabama. Born and
hear
raised.
that accent.
Yeah, it's a little bit of Southern accent. You learn to control it if you can. I know. But you know what they say.
You can't show all your cards.
No, it's the Southern accent that makes the English language romantic, so I don't mind.
Huh. Never heard that one.
That's what that is.
Okay.
So yeah, Mobile, Alabama, born and raised. My education was there at Spring Hill College, Jesuit college.
Were you Jesuit?
No, I was not Jesuit, just Catholic.
Oh, yeah. Grew up Catholic. Okay.
Grew up Catholic, 16 years of Catholic education. We were talking before, I have a degree in developmental psychology from there.
Wow.
Went into law school, focused on business, and got a master's degree as well in human resources, and that's been my focus for the last 20 years.
Yeah. And you said, we were talking a little bit before, you said you originally wanted to do education.
I wanted to be a child advocate.
A child advocate.
Child advocate in the prosecutor's office was my original thought.
What made you want to do that?
Looking for a noble cause. You know, what can you do outside of looking for money? I mean, money is one thing, but you have to love what you do for your entire life. So something to cling to would have been that. Like I said, it was a little bit emotionally taxing for my personal makeup, but what I did like was business, and I went into that, and I've enjoyed it. And I've had I've been fortunate to work for some businesses with noble cause and animal health and pharmaceuticals, and been able to stay motivated through that.
Okay.
That's what motivates me.
So you got out of college, then what'd you do?
Well, I got married in law school. We were married for some time, ended up being divorced, and focused on my career and moving around the Southeast. I've been employed with 5 major Fortune 500 companies in my time. Professional development has been something that I've focused on, and keeping things going. So this has been a shock, the fact that I've had to come into the mission for some assistance, but you just never know what life has to throw at you.
I feel, I'm excited to hear, anticipating what the turn in the story is. Tell us about coming to Atlanta.
So coming to Atlanta was interesting. I'd gotten divorced, and I was going through that young phase of trying to find myself. Coming here and really understanding, my sexuality, and coming to Atlanta is a little bit of a gay mecca. And that's what I discovered while I was here. And at that time, there was a revolution going on, I think, in Atlanta.
What period of time was this?
This is 90s to early 2000s.
Okay.
Really getting to know a large group of people and coming into a community of understanding and finding myself.
So growing up in the South,
yeah,
your sexuality, how did that play out? You're smiling, so I feel like there's a story there.
It was an evolution,
Okay.
you come
Because you
to,
probably grew up in a very conservative South, being in the Catholic.
yeah, it was a liberal arts education, so there was somewhat of an open mind, but you have to come to terms with it for yourself and then determine how the people in your life will navigate to the other end. And my family's very accepting. You know, I was many years with a huge group of friends, but it's at one point everyone sort of scattered to the wind with different career choices and moving to different cities. It was a party atmosphere, and that eventually came in on me, and I had some decisions to make about what I would do, what would I leave behind. And in that process of leaving that kind of atmosphere behind, having the wrong people around and making some of the wrong decisions, I faced a little bit of a financial crisis. I was robbed and evicted, and no family around here, but I had to find a place to be.
So that's what happened to bring you to Atlanta Mission.
That's what happened to bring me to
So
the
you've been
mission.
in Atlanta since
2007.
2007. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've spent your time in Atlanta you were working for these Fortune 500s, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Talk a little bit about what brought you to the doors of Atlanta Mission.
I was in my last position with Boehringer Ingelheim, and I'm not sure I would want to say that out loud, but with the company I was working for,
Yeah.
there was a job elimination in connection with a merger, and I was fortunate enough to get a buyout, which meant I had some choices to make about free time or going back to work.
Yeah.
And I took that free time to pursue some personal interest in creative writing and the publishing process. I leaned a little bit too heavily on that party kind of life. Drugs became an issue,
Okay.
which I faced, and I've certainly know where to go and who to talk to. And
Were drugs something that you had ever done in your childhood, or
not at all.
so? What made you like go into that space?
I think that it's the community, that revolution that we're going through to find ourselves. Drugs have become somewhat of an issue, at least for
Yeah.
some of us. I had to face that fact, and I did come to grips with what that meant. And like I say, I know where to go, and I know who to talk to, and I can stand up and not say my name and not define myself as one thing or another, but I know what that is. In an effort to push that out of my life and not working, the wrong people were around, and things were disappearing, and I wasn't paying attention. And before I knew it, I found myself evicted and nowhere to go. A bit estranged from my family at this point. You know, I don't know what's been happening since I was gone, but like I say, strong faith in Catholicism our whole lives. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing, this is so strange, but Satanism has come into the forefront with my family. Never heard that in my life. But I've heard my brother say it. My mother's acting very strangely, so I had to separate myself and really define who I am from a faith standpoint. I don't speak to them unless I have to, which is hard. But coming into the mission, I saw a program that focused on professional development and the real parts of life to get me back where I needed to be. So it's just helped me refocus and deal with some legal issues as well. So that's kind of what brought me here.
How would you describe your faith now?
Very strong. Very strong. There have been times I don't know what I would have done if I didn't know there was something more beyond this life and that there would be more past the troubles that I'm dealing with. I mean, I lost everything. I mean,
Yeah, what was that like? What did that feel like? Because it doesn't seem like that was something you had experienced before.
never.
So what kind of toll did that take on you mentally and emotionally?
Having gone through my own career path and my own personal journey, I thought, well, surely I can handle everything.
Right.
And there was a short period of time that I thought, well, I'll be sleeping in my car. And I did for a while.
What was that like?
Horrible.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So I figured, well, I'll call my parents, and that was a no-go. I'll call my brothers and sisters, and there was a very strange interaction about what they believe and what they would do if I ever came back. I could do that. But you can't sleep in your car, and the resources are limited. And in doing research and finding the Atlanta Mission, I understood that this is just another hurdle, and there are resources there, and kind of made me feel proud to be in a society where this is available, and you can find the runway back to your life after, facing bad decisions or circumstance, whatever it is. And it's not all just individuals who find themselves living on the streets chronically. This is an opportunity to bounce back from a plateau and not define yourself by a disaster in your life.
Were you embarrassed by the situation you found yourself in?
I was. There were times I can look back and see that if I'd made a different decision, this would have just gone to the wayside and I could have continued what I was doing. But in being here and finding spiritual strength and an advisor and, Bible studies that would help recenter what I was thinking, I realized who I am, and I'm still the same person. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I don't have to define myself by what's happened. It's a part of my story, and it will really only make me stronger in the end. Embarrassed, yes. But that quickly turns into motivation, and I'll never say embarrassed to anyone else. It's what happened. You deal with it. Those moments are what will define you, and all I'll ever be able to say is that I was strong enough to do it.
So, Jason, can you just tell us what it felt like to walk through the doors of Atlanta Mission?
It took a hard swallow. You always figure you'd have resources available in an emergency, but mine fell apart very quickly. So what I had to do was avoid the stigma of what was written on the door and get inside and really understand what my options might be. It felt in the moment like things were over. Things came crashing down so hard, and I felt stupid because in some way I feel like I wanted to say to myself, you knew better than this. But not paying attention in a tenuous situation is what led to this. And they were quick to say, sit down and let's talk about these things. There's a clinician available. Let's talk about what you need emotionally and what you need to really move on from this rather than focus on it for too long. And I think what hit me the hardest is when my advocate looked across the desk and said, I want you to settle in. And my initial thought was, I have no choice. I'm here for a solution. And that's what it was. I settled in and I got myself in the right mental space, and they were there to do it. Having been through treatment before, that's a different environment. That's a little bit unforgiving. That's, all about you facing what you've done to yourself or whatever that is. This is something different. I don't face those issues anymore. And this was about a life crisis, and we're all there for different reasons. And I realized that quickly. I will realize what my purpose is here. And that's run way back to the professional life I had before. And then there are some that have faced chronic homelessness. There are some that are there because of a drug problem, and there's specific lines of help for that. Really enlightening to know, I'm here and this is available, and it happened this time and it won't likely happen again. And the professionals are here to help you through it.
So you'd gone through treatment before,
I have.
back when you were kind of in that spiral.
Right.
Was it inpatient, outpatient?
I put myself through an inpatient program. Okay. It was 2 months.
Okay.
And
I did you feel like you got the help you needed?
I did. I got the help I needed, and I did that for myself because, like I say, I was coming into that kind of understanding of who I was.
Yeah. A lot of experimentation. It sounds like
that's what it is. I'm part of a community, but that part of the community I need to walk away from, and it was a personal choice, and I keep that with me all the time. I remind myself all the time, you're gold chip, and you're past this, and you don't define yourself by that episode. I'm talking about it now because I think it's useful for people that come into this for whatever reason. Don't run away from what that is. If it's a part of your story, then let it be a part of your story, but you don't define yourself by one thing or another. And it's a future focused effort when you get here. That's the only thing that matters. Get yourself to the other end.
I'm really curious about your faith.
Yes.
It sounds like your faith gave you a lot of hope.
It did.
Kept you going. As you were going through this experience, as you're walking through the doors, how did that challenge your faith? Did it?
There were times, you find yourself asking, why me? But I've always understood faith and prayer can take you so far. An understanding of what's past what in the physical is what will get you through, but you still have to put in the effort. Did it challenge my faith? I was angry. But holding on to what I know outside of the physical is something that I hold dear to me. So I'll always be that kind of thing.
What got you through being angry at God? Like, what was the turning point?
Understanding that the resources were there and it was already in me to turn this around. And I, I'll bring it forward. You can't relax when it comes to those kinds of things. I lost sight of the people around me and what I needed to focus on because I was in a creative frame of mind and maybe slipping on some other decisions that I'd made in the past about sobriety. But these resources have helped me refocus, and I'm right back where I was at this point. So it's good.
Yeah, let's talk about your time at Atlanta Mission.
Sure.
What's it been like? How long have you been there?
Been there a few months now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how's it been?
It's been good. It's very regimented, and they let you know quickly what the resources
Do you like
look like.
that?
I do like that.
Okay.
I like to have a plan in front of me.
See, I'm not a regimented person.
No,
So.
in this case, you have to be.
I know. I'd have to change a lot.
Yeah, you have to be. No, and the courses that are available, they line it out for you very quickly.
Okay.
It's interactive. If you need more than just that, then the clinicians are available, and the advocates are there for you to talk about what your options might be to get you to the other side. I've been able to focus on a professional development opportunity while I'm there. And, I went through the Next Steps program.
Oh, you did?
I did.
How was it?
Pretty good. Help you brush up on professional skills and time management
It's
and professionalism.
intense.
It is very interactive. And then at the end of that time, you can go through a guided job search
Yeah.
with a coach. And I've done this before. That's my line of work. But it's been great to help me focus on what I need to do next. And, I've had many interviews at this point, and it's hiring season now. So fingers crossed. I wasn't working at the time by choice, but it's time to go back to work, and I still have the skills to do it and a new certification to make everything look great.
you do?
Yes, I do. I got a new certification in mediation skills.
Okay.
And that's going to help me in my chosen field of human resources, employee relations and investigations and risk mitigation. And another in, I'll be a senior professional in human resources with that license or that certification. So they've helped
Awesome.
me get myself right back where I need to be.
Wow.
Yeah,
It sounds like you've really
professionally.
used the resources to help you
Absolutely.
have a plan.
Have a
Yeah.
plan. Go in with a plan, most certainly, and they'll help you achieve those goals. And individuals who just don't know what to do, there's spiritual guidance and then, professional guidance as well. It's a fully rounded program, and you'll walk out knowing what your next step will be.
We did not pay him to say this. You're beautifully saying all the services we provide. So thank you.
That's what it is.
So what does the future look like for you?
At this point, I'm keeping things basic. It's going to be
You don't seem like a basic guy.
I'll very quickly, I keep telling myself I'm about to take off and fly. It'll be that kind of thing. It'll be the next logical step in my professional career. I've not lost anything. There for a while, I thought, my God, I have destroyed everything.
Yeah.
I haven't. Your life remains a private matter, and you feel like you're on display when you go through these things, but you are a valuable member of society. You have your right to privacy, and you're doing what you can in your circumstances to get to the next step. So it's my next professional job, and then on to, I'll buy a house within 18 months. I have a savings plan, and everything will be.
Wow, you've got a plan.
I have a plan, and I don't vary from that. I concentrate on that every day, all day.
Okay. Is that like what helps keep you motivated?
That's all it
Keep
takes.
going. What are you hoping to reconnect with your family?
Well, that was the next comment that was coming into my mind. I would like to reconnect with my family, but in talking with people about what's happened, if I don't, then I'll find connections in a different way. The family you're born into is one thing.
My counselor calls it
right.
the chosen family.
The family you choose
Yes,
is
Yeah.
something
she's
else,
saying,
and that's
she
true.
keeps telling me, Rachel, you have to build a great chosen family.
The
I'm
family you
working on
choose is
it.
another thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Like sometimes those family relationships are so complicated, but I think the important thing is having community around you and how do you build that.
I'm looking forward to making those connections and reaching out to some old connections as well. We've all, like I say, we scattered to the wind with different opportunities or just moving for one reason or another. But I'll make those connections again, and I'll look back and realize what this was all about, you know?
Yeah. Throughout this whole experience, you look back at your time experiencing homelessness. When did you feel unseen, and how did it feel?
Being the kind of person that I've been throughout my adult life, I lost everything at one time. I felt unseen when my family didn't respond. I had absolutely no clue where to go because I've never looked at this possibility before. I never thought this would happen. Bouncing around to different resources that don't do this kind of thing, I thought I'm never going to be able to find a plateau to stand on. What do you do? Because I can't go home again, and I have no resources at this point. So that's kind of when reality struck, and I knew I had to find this kind of thing, and it was available somewhere. Yeah, but I mean, any advice I would give coming in is to face what got you here, leave that where it is, and focus on your future moving forward. The platform is here. You know, you can go through the programs and get the spiritual guidance you need, motivational guidance, and then also a job search to get you back where you need to be on your own and in a place of your own without support.
I think the thing that has been so good about your story is, that's a terrible word to use, but it's been so good, is you kind of break a lot of misconceptions around homelessness. And so I think that's what's so powerful in your story, is that we often think of people who are homeless as the chronic homeless. They're,
right.
Panhandling on the street. That's not your situation.
And this is a great point. I mean, so many people are only a paycheck away from crisis in their lives. It can happen to anyone. If you're not financially stable at this point in your life, that needs to be a focus. You need a savings plan and a retirement plan before you have to tell yourself, what am I going to do next? Because you're right, homelessness is only a paycheck away for so many people.
Yeah. And I think what else struck me, I think you just have such an internal drive. I'd love to know what you are in the Enneagram.
Right.
Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you need to go do the
All right, we're
test
doing
and
the
then
test.
tell
Okay.
me. But I'm always struck by people who have this internal drive of like, hey, like, I can't stay in this headspace. I have to get myself. I don't know if it's resiliency. I don't know if it's a survival tactic. I don't know what it is. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
But I like to play one sometimes. So I think that really struck me in your story, is you just have this internal drive to like keep moving forward.
Yeah.
We're not going to look back. We're going to keep moving forward. Yeah. That really spoke to me.
I think along with that, the word that comes to my mind is humility.
Yeah.
Like for you,
sure.
Yeah.
going through this process and having to be humbled to even walk through the doors. Like
and accept
that,
the help.
Yeah.
Accept the help that's there. What motivates you is a big question. What parts of your personality you need to come to terms with? What will it take for you to grasp that future focus? Are you comfortable with abstract things, or do you want to know what's coming next?
Yeah.
So that is a good point to understand your personality and how to move forward.
I like abstract. He wants to know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you very
We're so
much.
grateful that you were willing to share your story. We hope you guys all were able to take something from Jason's story. We really hope that you were able to see a different face of homelessness you wouldn't think about. And we'd love for you to tune in next time. Wow. Jason's story was so amazing. I think he really debunks a lot of myths that we have about homelessness and people who are experiencing homelessness. And he talks a lot about in his story about our program that helps you with job readiness. And while he had a job for a very long time, was very successful, he talks a lot about how the things that he learned in our Next Steps program really helped him as he prepares to enter the workforce again. So we have a very special guest today, Anthony Green Jr., and he works on our Next Steps team here at Atlanta Mission. He is a vocational training specialist. Anthony, hi.
How are you?
welcome.
Good.
Thank you so much.
And Anthony, how long have you been at the mission?
Okay, I'm an old man here, 7 years.
7 years. Not as
Yes.
old as me. I'm an old woman.
Okay.
So you started over at the men's shelter, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
At the Shepherd's Inn, yeah, as an ambassador.
Okay. So he's kind of seen the whole progression of the process people go through when they come to Atlanta Mission. So the ambassador is really at those first phases of our program, Find Hope, Choose Help. The ambassador is really the friend and guide for the clients as they move through the program. And now you're like a full circle situation.
I know.
Because now you're at the end.
I'm at the end, and it's a wonderful place to be. When I wasn't an ambassador at the very beginning, I didn't know what happened at the end. It was hard to see what happened to our clients. It's almost as if they just got lost until, unfortunately, which is what we tried to stop, we saw them again. So this was the cycle of what happened when you left here. But now being a part of the end, I'm able to see what that finished product looks like. And now I have more control of helping them to finish their story the way that they want to do it.
Yeah, and just a little bit of context before we dive in. Atlanta Mission had several job readiness programs prior to our Next Step program. And there is a reputable organization out of Chicago named CARA, and they had wanted to start replicating their job readiness program. And one of the big things that they felt was a differentiator in their program was that it didn't just help with hard skills for clients, it really helped address the soft skills.
That's right.
Because they found through a lot of research, a lot of time doing their program, that the reason why clients who were experiencing homelessness weren't able to maintain work
That's right.
was it wasn't the hard skills.
Yep.
It was the soft skills.
Soft skills.
And so the soft skills were directly tied to trauma. And so, anyways, long story short, they wanted to replicate the program. So we started our job readiness program several years ago, and we adopted the CARA model, but made it our own.
That's right.
CARA operates their model. They don't also have a shelter attached to theirs,
Right.
but we obviously do. And so yes, it's been really cool to have this piece of the program because it really helps people re-enter the workforce while still keeping the core of what we believe is important for our clients, which is how do we help with their relational poverty?
That's right. I mean, it's so important. CARA, they have, along with the 5 core competencies, the vocational element of it, time management, professionalism, communication, conflict management. They also have what's called the 5 transformations. Look with new eyes, change your behavior, don't relax, know the deepest truth of who you are. And these elements, they tie into the vocational aspect of what we teach in the classes to help our clients really look within, to help with their relational connections in the workforce, in their communities, whether it's family, friendship, so that we can also help them live this life of sustainability.
Tell us about Next Steps. What is it? What's the process, and sort of how do you progress through?
What we do here at Atlanta Mission, it's a shared process. So like you mentioned,
Yeah.
There's find hope, choose help, make progress. These are all different stages that our clients go through as they're progressing through Atlanta Mission. Well, Next Steps is at that end portion there. And so after they've gone through a series of classes in those other stages, they come to us beginning their process of what we call job search workshop. It's this week.
All of them talked about JSW,
Yeah.
so we're
Finally.
talking about JSW.
JSW.
They kept saying JSW. So.
Yeah, they come here and they know that it's going to be something different, something that they haven't experienced while here at the mission. And Job Search Workshop is just an introduction to getting back into the workforce. It still has that relational element to it, but not so much, if that makes sense. We want to see how they work in the workplace without a lot of coaching. We're kind of a little hands off in that first week, but we're introducing them to the workforce competencies, and we're seeing how they interact with one another. We're seeing if they're able to maintain a certain standard before they go to the next process, which is transformations. And
my
then we
goodness,
get
yes.
a little heavier into digging
That's
deep.
it's not a little heavier.
Oh, it's not a little heavier?
For our listeners, it's not a little heavier. I'm always like, man, I need to go through this.
We go in. It
Yes.
gets pretty deep.
But before we talk about transformations, we have a lot of clients at Atlanta Mission. Not all of them go through Next Steps. How do we determine whether someone is a candidate for going through it?
The different campuses, the men's shelter, the Shepherdson, the women's shelter, my sister's house, sometimes they make that decision depending on how they've been working with the individual.
Okay.
But if they believe they have some potential, it's that job search workshop week where we're able to kind of filter and
You're able to
discern.
see like who's going to be able to make it, who's not.
And observe, absolutely. But it's really their choice. Once they get to job search workshop, we ask them, what do you want to do next week? Do you want to go through transformations or do you want to go straight into job search? And some will say they want to go straight into job search, others transformations. And sometimes we do make suggestions. Hey, this is what I've seen. This is, what I've observed so far. And if you decide to go a step further into transformation, it's going to be a little triggering. It's going to be a little tough. It's going to be, it's going to shake you a little bit. are you ready for that? Is that something you want to go through? And if the answer is yes, we allow them to go through it. If the answer is no, they want to go to job search, they'll still get that support, a certain level of support in job search.
So let's talk about transformations.
Yes. Your face changed when you said transformation.
It did.
Oh, that's where I play.
Okay, go on. To our listeners, you need to come to transformations.
Transformation. I tell everybody this all the time. I wish I had something like transformations to go through.
Me too.
Before I was thrown into the workforce.
Yeah.
We're all, it's trial and error with us. You're going to sink or swim. You're going to try some things, but no one really, allowed you to pause or stop and really think about what you're going to do as you're looking for a job. Before we can even facilitate one class, we actually have to go through it because we can't teach where we don't go. We're all a part of a cohort even before we facilitate the classes. But we dig deep into the clients we actually want to trigger as safe as we can, but we want to trigger. We want that stuff to come out in that space so that we can help our clients work through it in the moment so that when they go out into the workforce and they may get triggered, they know how to cope, they know how to handle it, they know how to manage those triggers.
That's really unique, I feel like, because we're trying to trigger you in a safe space, right? So that this doesn't happen for the first time in the workplace, and then you lose your job, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to avoid that.
It can sound kind of jarring. It can sound kind of, for lack of a better word, cruel to some degree, but it is necessary because, like you mentioned, a lot of our clients are coming from traumatic experiences, and it's no fault of their own. And sometimes they don't know their triggers. Sometimes they don't understand why they're in this cycle of being unhoused, the cycle of not able to keep a job. And it's not until they get into the safe space we're able to address it properly and help them work through it.
Every morning you guys do something called motivations.
That's right.
And I'll have you explain that. But I've been in several motivations experiences where you have directly challenged clients. And of course, my first initial is like, oh my goodness, this is so awkward.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I feel every time I'm like, this is what true authenticity and vulnerability is.
That's right.
As I'm like, so often we walk through life and we just try to cover up things that are uncomfortable or awkward.
Yeah.
And what you do in they all respect you and love you so much. And to have somebody challenge you is really powerful.
Life is uncomfortable. Walking in new spaces is uncomfortable. Stepping into the job on day one is uncomfortable. And we want them to be uncomfortable, even in motivations. But how can you operate or perform well even in the midst of discomfort? How can you flex those muscles? And so it's about practicing that.
It makes it normal.
It makes it, to some degree. I'm challenged with that word normal.
Yeah.
Because, even if it never becomes normal, it's okay.
I love that.
It's okay. Nerves, it's fine. Feeling uncomfortable, it's fine. But still being able to perform well in the midst of it, that's what we want our clients to be able to do.
So I think about sometimes the motivation circle, and we'll get to that. We'll talk about motivations in a little bit. But we talk about how we're making people sometimes feel uncomfortable. You talked about sometimes it feels cruel. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what does that actually, what does that look like?
Can you give us some examples?
Can you give us an example?
We have this exercise called Cross the Line.
Okay. I already don't like this. Go on.
Oh, it is, yeah.
You're the queen of crossing the line, though. If I can say.
We have this exercise cross the line where we're giving out different scenarios that individuals in the space may have went through in life. It can be something as light as, if you're from Atlanta, cross the line. If you're the only child, cross the line. If you played in a band, cross the line. If you hit a home run, cross the line. And you're challenged to see how many people are crossing the line with you, or you're also challenged to see if you're the only one at the line. But then we go a little deeper, if your family has fallen victim to alcoholism, cross the line. If you've ever been abused, cross the line. If you've ever felt lonely or unloved, cross the line. And some of these statements are bringing up thoughts that our clients have suppressed. And it hasn't served them well. And they're looking to the left and the right, and they're noticing, however, they're not alone. They're not by themselves. That even when we go to work or whatever space, there's people that we work with in our community that's been through some of the same struggles, and we can build a community there. We can find ways to connect with one another there. We can have empathy and sympathy for one another, and this can influence how I treat one another, because someone may have gone through the exact same thing I've went through. And so when I come in the morning, I'm going to make certain I say good morning or ask, how's your day going today? And really do it from a place of authenticity, because now I care. Just being able to look with new eyes. That's one of our transformations. Look with new eyes, at my teammate, at my coworker, and realize that if they're having a bad day, maybe there's a reason why they're having a bad day. Maybe last night wasn't so good. Maybe the minutes before coming into work, maybe it wasn't so good. And so maybe they have a reason not to have a good day. And maybe there's a reason why they are a little standoffish. But not allowing that to influence the way I treat the people I work with, And so these are some of the things.
Yeah, and I think even sometimes when I've seen you challenge people in the motivation circle, it's, hey, you may have phoned in that answer. Do it again.
Yeah.
You're not coddling people.
Oh, no.
I like to be coddled.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's so, it shows this level of honesty that people have of hey, I know you, I see you, do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about knowing their potential. Sometimes we don't know our own potential until someone challenges us, right, to step outside of our comfort zone and to think about things a different way. Thinking outside the box, that's another one of our transformations. So, okay, you've given this answer, this response that's so practiced, and you know what to say, but it doesn't have real meaning. Let's see if we can make a true connection.
You're the first one to call that out.
Oh yeah.
Them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
You can totally see right through it.
So transformations isn't named by accident.
No.
Right?
No.
Okay, we get to the end of transformations. What kind of change have you seen? You got to spend a lot of time with them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What do you see?
And it's amazing how much transformation you see in a matter of 3 weeks. So it's all happening in a matter of 3 weeks. You see a lot of self-accountability. You see a lot of self-accountability. In other words, people will come into the space and they have this posture of blaming. They have this posture where they're guarded. And there is something that happens throughout the week where they're looking inward, and they're different people. There's this exercise we used to do where upon coming into Atlanta Mission and intake, everyone has to have their picture taken.
Yeah.
And at the end of transformations, we take their picture again. And it literally looks like two different people. And we show it to our clients, and the emotion that just kind of stirs up, because now they're able to see the transformation that they've made, because they're able to see it outside of themselves. It's shocking in all the best ways, when they're able to look and say, wow, I look totally different. I remember what I was going through in the very beginning, but now that I'm here, I can see what I've overcome. I can see what I've overcame. I can see how the hard work has paid off. And so, yeah, there's a lot of self-accountability. There's a lot of empathy. There's a lot of understanding their own strength and value. And then there's confidence in that. And so now when they go to these job interviews, they're able to turn down a position that they know is not good enough and not feel like they have to take a job out of desperation and struggle, because now they're able to look at the workforce, the workplace in new eyes.
Well, and they know the deepest truth of who they are now.
And they know the deepest truth of who they are.
And that's what we heard so much from our clients that we've talked to and continue to talk to, is that they feel like for the first time they actually like themselves and love themselves. And so it's super encouraging to hear you say that too. And just for our listeners too. So once they go through transformations, then they are eligible for job search, job placement. We have corporate partners, which Jonathan will plug at the end of this episode.
We will.
And then the really unique thing about this program that we have is that we have what we call a retention coach who walks with, once they're employed, our retention coach walks with our clients for up to a year.
That's right.
To make sure that they are able to sustain their job. And that's something that also came out of the CARA research, is that really the job's lost really in that first year. And so that's an aftercare program that we have. And once they've made it a year, they get on our Great Wall.
They get on our Great Wall, absolutely. So if you remember when I was talking about how I used to work on the men's campus in the beginning, we will see clients come back.
Yeah.
And this was a matter of 3 to 6 months they'll be coming back. Well, now the whole idea is, once you get that job, you're on the job for at least a year. And that retention coach is helping you in that process. So as long as you come through transformation, you're promised a retention coach. And the good thing about that is you have that retention coach whether you still reside at Atlanta Mission or not.
Right, which is so amazing.
It's so amazing. And so you have someone doing it with you.
Yeah, you have someone advocating for you. You have someone to process with. So it's a really unique piece of the work we do. And I really hope that our conversation with Anthony today showed you more about what we do in this phase of our program. I think it's a very unique identifier of Atlanta Mission, is that we are helping people sustain and grow after they leave us. And I love, like we've talked about so many different things on this podcast, and we'll continue to talk about so many different things. But the key to all of these things is not just to meet the physical need, it's to meet the emotional, spiritual, relational needs.
That's right.
And so I hope you guys got to see a little bit of Anthony's personality. He's such a bright light at Atlanta Mission.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to have him. The clients love him.
I just want to jump in real quick.
Yes.
One of the things I love about Next Steps
Go on.
is Next Steps is one of our programs that the community can come in and see what's happening. So we talked about motivations very quickly. Can you just tell us a little bit about motivations and if someone wants to come in, how does that happen?
Oh yeah, motivations is a party in itself. Okay,
I'm not a morning person, and it's a party.
It's a party. We crank up the music so loud, right? And everybody's coming in and they're cheering and they're dancing in the middle of the circle that we have. We have a motivation circle. And I'll just say this quickly. It's so inspiring because you have individuals who's going through what can seemingly be the lowest point of their life, but they're in the middle of the circle dancing and laughing and singing, and they're cheering each other on in motivations. And they're answering a question of the day that they're a little nervous about answering, but they have encouragement from their peers, and everyone is saying, "That's my friend." And you're announcing your job in motivation if you've gotten a job offer, if you have an interview, and you're ringing the bell if you've been employed, and everyone's celebrating. and so we welcome people in that space to see the wonderful work that we're doing there.
Yeah, we'd love to have you join us for Motivations. It happens every day.
Yeah.
9
Monday
o'clock?
through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m.
Yep.
And we'll put information in the show notes for that. We'd love to have you involved.
Yeah.
And also, too, let's talk about a little bit before we go, how can you get involved as a corporation with Next Steps?
Yes, so we love community involvement, all areas, but specifically for companies, if you own a business or you work at a business that hires people, we have people to hire.
Yes.
So reach out to us.
Yeah.
We would love to place you with a successful client. And we work really hard to make sure each placement is successful. It is a good match that we believe.
We want it to be a good fit for you and for us.
Right.
So
we work really hard on that. And if you want to just come and volunteer, you can come. Bring your team. Come and volunteer with us.
We'll get you plugged in. you might actually get to meet Jonathan in person.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening and engaging with these challenging yet vital conversations about mental health, addiction, homelessness, and trauma in our city. Facing these issues head on is how we ignite real transformation in Atlanta. Thank you to our season sponsor, the Scott Pryor Law Group. The transformation you've heard wouldn't be possible without incredible partners like the Scott Pryor Law Group, personal injury and accident attorneys. Their compassion and dedication to our community fuel stories of transformation just like these. If you are injured in a semi-truck or car accident, call the Scott Pryor Law Group. As a U.S. Marine, we fight and win for you. Our clients are family for life. We handle all types of injuries. You focus on healing, and we handle the rest. Now, if today's episode inspired you to take the next step, we would love to invite you to join the work that God is doing here. There are 2 really impactful ways for you to get involved. First, you can give financially to help us continue the work you heard about today. Second, you can volunteer your time by serving at one of our campuses. You can find all the ways to give and get involved at atlantamission.org. Thank you again for being part of this journey. Please join us next time as we uncover more powerful stories of hope and transformation.